Hello, my name is Gabrіеле Kosentino. I am assistant professor at the American University in Cairo. And in this brief presentation today, I will be talking to you about the post-truth era, discussing both the causes and possible solution of this problem, of this phenomenon. So in Europe and in the United States, since about 2016, there has been a lot of discussion, research, and awareness campaigns on the issues of disinformation, propaganda, and public opinion manipulation, especially what is happening through social media and the internet. The problem has appeared so serious and so pervasive that it has been suggested that we now live in the era of post-truth. In the current era of global network communications, in which billions of people are creating content that spreads with lightning speed around the world, truth seems to have become kind of a slippery, even fading notion. And studies have actually demonstrated that false information spreads online faster than truthful content. And false information now, unfortunately, we know that has impacted in a serious way many aspects of our life, from public health to politics to the environment. And in the slides, you have a living testimony that we are actually in the post-truth era. So the questions that I will be addressing in these presentations are: what does post-truth mean? And what are the causes and possible solutions to this problem? So we can define post-truth as a condition in which the public opinion tends to rely more on emotions such as rage or fear than on objective facts in establishing the truth. And what are the causes of this particular condition that we seem to have been slipped into since a few years? Most discussions of the phenomenon, most research on this phenomenon have focused on the role of technology, from ubiquitous smartphones to social media, who actually play a big role in enabling deceptive, manipulative, or malign content. And it has been established definitely by research that technology greatly facilitates the dissemination of false information. Technology companies such as Meta or X who are racing among each other to capture our attention and to turning into money, to monetize it, have rushed to implement on their platforms features such as, for example, recommendation algorithms that have significantly worsened the problem. Social media have also been blamed for locking people into so-called filter bubbles, information bubbles in which people are exposed to content which is always similar, more and more of the same content, because these are the logics of the algorithm, giving people more of the same. And this has actually been demonstrated that is conducive to the spread of mis- and disinformation. Software automation on social media and other platforms have also been used to push deceptive content, usually via so-called bots, which are software agents that perform repeatedly automated tasks, automated operations. These are actually frequently used in disinformation campaigns by Russia, and this has been extensively researched, as well as other countries such as China or the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, for example, who have developed very sophisticated tools and tactics to conduct disinformation campaign via social media. And now that we're entering the new technological era of generative AI, which is developing at a very fast pace, it's actually bound to further worsen this problem, as we have seen already in the proliferation of fake images and deepfake videos. There has been, luckily, a recognition of this problem by technology companies, by technology executives, for example, Mark Zuckerberg of Meta, as well as by policymakers, which have grown increasingly worried by the impact of misinformation and disinformation on politics, and by regular citizens who have seen their lives impacted by it. Still, big global technology companies continue to benefit a lot from the spread of false information, because ultimately false information drives engagement, drives traffic, and this turns into revenue. There have been also other perspectives, other approaches to explain what are the mechanisms favoring the spread of false information online. And these are approaches which have focused on psychological, social, and cultural factors. For example, research has demonstrated that we as humans, we have an innate attraction towards outlandish, provocative, and sensational content. And we also follow certain cognitive defensive mechanisms, such as so-called confirmation bias, which make us look for information that confirms our pre-existing views, our pre-existing beliefs, even if these are false. There are also other dynamics studied by researchers, such as in-group or out-group dynamics, which means that people, when they belong to online communities, they tend to defend their identity, the belonging to a group, often attacking through disinformation other groups, or sometimes spreading false information can be used as a signal to be part of a community. So these are all factors, these are all mechanisms that have been studied and offered as an explanation for this broader post-truth era. As far as possible solutions that have been suggested and already implemented to the problem, we have already noticed that, especially since the pandemic, technology platforms as well as various initiatives by news organizations and fact-checking organizations have implemented features aimed at moderating content, at verifying information. And this is a very sensitive, very important effort, especially during an election. And 2024 is a very important election year in many countries around the world. So it's essential that content moderation and fact-checking efforts are put into place to make sure that disinformation and misinformation do not negatively impact the course of an election. Other potential remedies, potential solutions that have been offered and already implemented are the development of media and news literacy program. And these are all efforts and initiatives which are aimed at giving people and citizens important critical skills necessary to navigate the increasingly complex information ecosystem of today. And here I am showing some of the fundamental and basic things that users can do whenever they are encountering a piece of information online to check its veracity, to check its source, to check the author, to focus on various details and various aspects which are all part of a verification process. And a media literacy education, it's aimed as equipping users with this knowledge, with this tools. These are all absolutely fundamental and important perspective and solution. But remains a big and broader question at the heart of the problem of post-truth. Why do people create and consume disinformation? And why, in the current age, emotions have become more important than facts in public discourse? And why, ultimately, are people so fearful and so enraged, so driven by emotions, and thus more vulnerable to manipulation? In my view, a crisis of truth is, at its heart, a crisis of trust. In most cases, we as citizens, we as individuals, we don't have the knowledge, we don't have the education, we don't have the time even to really establish the truth, especially on complex issues such as the economy or public health issues. We need to rely on institutions and authorities who can do the assessment and the verification for us. But this, especially in a democracy, requires trust. It requires that we trust the institutions. Unfortunately, a growing number of people in Western countries don't trust traditional media, don't trust institutions and politicians anymore. This makes them more disoriented and more vulnerable to manipulation and influence. So post-truth and the lack of trust is not a technical problem. It's not even a cognitive or psychological problem. In my interpretation, is ultimately a political problem. If people trust their leaders, their institution, their media, with respect to fundamental issues such as the economy, for example, or the environment, or security, then and only then there can be the necessary foundations to have a well-informed public sphere, which is necessary for the democratic process. So for me, the most durable, the most solid solution to post-truth is actually to rebuild trust, to rebuild citizens' trust in their government, in policy making, in society, and also in the economy. This is a much more complex goal to attain. Technical solutions are important, but they're not, of course, enough to really rebuild the foundation of trust that is needed to have a truthful public conversation. It's complex because it involves a significant revision, a significant discussions of the values underlying our society, and a discussion also of the type of society that we want to live in. But only if we can rebuild this trust, we can protect ourselves from the propaganda and the manipulations of the enemies of democracy, such as the current Russian government, or the Chinese government, or the Iranian government, or all the other autocratic regimes around the world who are preying on our weaknesses. If we want to solve the problem of post-truth, we have to rebuild a society where we trust each other. Thank you for your attention, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation.